What if I told you that the version of you the world needs most is the one you've been too afraid to become? Not the version that's polite, not the version that waits for validation, approval, applause, not the version that blends in, stays quiet, keeps the peace. I'm talking about the version that walks into a room and doesn't ask for respect, just gets it. You know exactly who I'm talking about. That guy. That guy who doesn't flinch when things go sideways. That guy who gets up at 5 a.m. without a camera in his face. That guy who doesn't perform for the internet, doesn't need followers, doesn't chase hype. He just executes. The kind of guy who doesn't say, I'll try, because trying is soft. He says, I will. But here's the thing. No one wants to admit. You don't become that guy by accident. You build him. You bleed for him. You lose friends for him. You break old versions of yourself. And sometimes you don't even recognize the one staring back in the mirror. And when people say you've changed, you look them dead in the eye and say, I was supposed to. This isn't about ego. This isn't about being macho. This is about identity. Because the real flex today isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's not thirsty. The real flex, being untouchable, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So let me ask you a question. And answer it honestly, not to me, but to yourself. Are you the kind of person who watches others dominate their life while making excuses for your own? Or are you ready to upgrade to version 2.0? Because Be That Guy 2.0 isn't a slogan. It's not a t-shirt. It's a warning. To every part of you that's been playing small, we're not here to motivate you. We're here to rebuild you. Ready? Let's begin. Let's get one thing straight from the start. You can't own your identity if you don't even know who you are. And most people don't. Most people are walking around wearing masks, changing them depending on who's in the room, who's watching, who they want to impress. They're not living, they're performing, they're adjusting, shape-shifting, shrinking, exaggerating, doing whatever it takes to be accepted. And the worst part, they don't even realize they're doing it. It's so ingrained in them, it's second nature. But here's the truth. The longer you play a role, the more you forget your real lines. You lose yourself. That guy 2.0 doesn't do that. He doesn't walk into a room wondering if he belongs. He knows he does. Not because someone told him, not because the room gave him permission, but because he decided a long time ago that he was going to own his space, own his voice, and own his presence unapologetically. That doesn't mean arrogant. That doesn't mean loud. That means authentic. And authenticity, that's rare. That's power. We live in a time where people will praise you for being fake if it makes them comfortable, and punish you for being real if it makes them confront their own weakness. So if you're waiting for the world to clap for your truth, you'll be waiting forever. The applause isn't coming, and it doesn't need to. You weren't built for their comfort. You were built for impact. But here's where most people fall short. They confuse their circumstances with their identity. You're not your job title. You're not the money in your bank account. You're not the mistakes you've made or the trauma you've survived. You are who you decide to be. And the moment you stop letting the past dictate your future is the moment you start owning your life. It's easy to say this is just who I am when you're living in fear, when you're not taking risks, when you're avoiding responsibility. That's not identity. That's avoidance dressed up as authenticity. Real identity is forged. It's earned. It's built every time you choose character over comfort. Every time you speak truth instead of what's easy. Every time you hold the line even when it costs you. And yes, it will cost you. Let's not pretend owning your identity is some smooth, inspiring, everyone cheers you on kind of path. You will lose people who liked the nice version of you, the agreeable version, the watered-down, diluted version. They'll say you've changed. You'll say, you're right, I did. I upgraded. When you own your identity, you stop making excuses for your ambition. You stop hiding your standards. You stop apologizing for your discipline, your drive, your decisions. You don't let people guilt you for wanting more. You don't dull your edge just so others don't feel uncomfortable. You sharpen it. You see, that guy 2.0 doesn't wait for permission to take up space. He's not waiting for someone to crown him worthy. He crowns himself. He knows that self-respect isn't earned through external validation. It's earned through internal alignment. He walks like he matters because he knows he does, and not because someone told him, but because he built a life that reflects it. And you want to know the real kicker? When you start walking in full alignment with who you are, when your actions, your words, your values, and your mindset are all in sync, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because people can feel the power of someone who is whole. That kind of clarity makes people uncomfortable. It also makes you unstoppable. But let me warn you, clarity comes with confrontation. You will have to confront every lie you've believed about yourself. You'll have to confront the opinions of people who never did the work but always had something to say. You'll have to face the parts of yourself you've ignored, the fear, the shame, the doubt, and burn it all down so you can rise clean. That's the work. That's the real grind. Anyone can go to the gym. Anyone can post a quote. But how many people are willing to get so real with themselves that it hurts? The reason most people don't own their identity is because ownership requires responsibility. And that's not sexy. That's not social media friendly. That means you can't blame your parents, your boss, your past, your partner. That means if your life's a mess, you're the reason. But here's the good news. If you're the reason, then you're also the solution. That's where the power is. And when you step into that space, when you stop editing yourself, censoring your truth, and apologizing for being real, something shifts. You walk differently. You speak differently. You operate with a sense of knowing, not arrogance, but certainty. You become the kind of person people don't question because you no longer question yourself. So if you're ready to be that guy 2.0, start here. Stop asking who you need to become and start asking what you need to shed. What parts of you were built on fear? What beliefs were handed to you that you never questioned? What relationships, habits, or patterns are keeping you small? Because before you become the next version of yourself, you're going to have to let the old one die. And when you do, you won't need to announce it. You won't need to prove it. People will feel it, and you'll know you finally showed up, fully. No apologies. You don't build an unbreakable mindset by reading books about mindset. You build it by going to war with yourself every single day. Not literal war, but internal war. The war against your laziness. The war against your excuses. The war against that quiet, seductive voice in your head that says, take it easy today. You've done enough. You can push tomorrow. That voice is the enemy. And if you don't learn to conquer it, it will conquer you. People talk about mental toughness like it's some motivational poster. But the truth is, it's gritty, it's painful, and it's often lonely. Most people have no idea what it actually takes to train your mind into something unshakable, something that doesn't flinch when the pressure is on, something that doesn't crack when things fall apart. They think it's just about staying positive. But an unbreakable mind isn't built on positivity, it's built on pressure, it's built on reps. It's built on putting yourself in situations that demand more from you than you think you have, and then discovering that you're capable of more than you believed. You want an unbreakable mindset? Then stop trying to avoid discomfort. Stop trying to skip the hard parts. Your comfort zone is a cage, and the longer you sit in it, the softer you become. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce weakness. Every time you run from the challenge, you send a message to your brain that you're not built for it. But when you lean in, when you voluntarily walk into the fire, into the pressure, into the resistance, you rewire everything. You become dangerous in the best way. But here's the part that no one glamorizes. It takes time. It takes failure. It takes 100 silent battles that nobody sees. It's built when you keep showing up after the motivation is gone. When it's cold, when it's inconvenient, when you're tired, when no one is watching. That's where mental toughness is born, in those quiet, invisible, brutal moments where you make a decision. Either you fold or you push. And the more you push, the stronger you get. Training like it's war doesn't mean you live in paranoia. It means you live in preparation. You don't wait for life to punch you in the face. You train like the punch is coming, because it will. And when it does, most people fall apart. They panic. They freeze. They collapse mentally because they never rehearsed what they would do under pressure. But not you, not that guy 2.0. You already trained for it. You ran drills in your mind. You put yourself through voluntary struggle so that involuntary struggle wouldn't break you. You practiced calm in chaos. You learned how to breathe through the panic. You learned how to think when most people would just react. That's what separates the mentally unbreakable from the average. Do you know what true mental toughness really is? It's the ability to suffer without losing your focus. It's the ability to feel fear and still move forward. It's the refusal to be a slave to your emotions. You don't let feelings run the show. You let values and discipline drive the mission. When you feel tired, you keep moving. When you feel doubt, you still take action. When everything in you says stop, You say not yet. And no, this isn't about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about command. It's about having such control over your internal world that no external situation can shake your foundation. You still feel things, you just don't let them hijack your performance. That's a different kind of power, the kind of power that leaders carry, the kind of power that warriors embody, the kind of power that Guy 2.0 is known for. People often say they want to be stronger, but strength is a byproduct of struggle. You don't get mentally strong by having an easy life. You get strong by facing what others avoid, by doing what others won't, by standing in discomfort long enough that it becomes your training ground. Pain becomes your gym, resistance becomes your coach, setbacks become fuel, failure becomes feedback. And the best part, when you build this kind of mindset, it leaks into every area of your life. You become a better leader, a better parent, a better partner, a better human. Why? Because when life hits, and it will hit, you don't shatter, you adapt, you recalibrate, you keep moving forward with clarity and control. People around you feel it. They start leaning on you because they know you don't crack. Not because you're emotionless, but because you're solid. And let's be honest, the world doesn't need more people who break under pressure. It needs more people who can hold the line, who can stay clear-headed in chaos, who can lead when others fall apart. That's what being unbreakable is really about. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the one who never loses composure, even when everything's on fire. So if you're serious about building this kind of mindset, stop treating life like a playground and start treating it like a proving ground. Test yourself daily, push your limits, put yourself in positions where you might fail, and then fight your way through. Get used to discomfort. Get used to pain. Get used to doing hard things, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Because you will be tested. And when that test comes, you don't want to be the person who says, I hope I'm ready. You want to be the one who says, I've been waiting for this. That's the mindset. That's the edge. That's what makes you unbreakable. Let's get something clear. Motivation is a mood. Discipline is a decision. You cannot build a strong life off of moods because moods are temporary. They come and go like weather. You're not always going to feel fired up. You're not always going to feel inspired. You're not always going to feel ready. And if you're relying on that feeling to get yourself moving, to show up, to execute, then you're not in control of your life. Your emotions are. And that's the difference between the average person and that guy 2.0. The average person waits to feel like it. That guy shows up because he said he would. Period. End of discussion. No debate. He doesn't need to be in the mood. He needs to meet the standard. He operates from principle, not feeling. He doesn't hope for a spark of motivation. He builds habits that don't care how he feels. Think about the people you respect most. The ones who actually walk the walk. The ones who are calm under pressure, consistent through chaos, and deadly focused when others are falling apart. You think they always feel like doing the work? You think they're always excited to wake up early, to train, to lead, to stay focused? No, they just don't give their feelings the authority to decide what they do. That's discipline. Discipline is a form of self-respect. It's the ability to keep a promise to yourself long after the emotion you made it with is gone. It's the internal command that says, I do what needs to be done no matter what. It's how you build trust with yourself. Because when you constantly break your own word, when you constantly say tomorrow or later or I just don't feel like it today, you're teaching yourself that your own voice means nothing. You're eroding your own credibility. And when you don't believe yourself, when you don't trust your own word, you lose power. You lose confidence. You lose direction. That's when the self-doubt creeps in. That's when you start looking outward for answers. That's when you become a follower instead of a force. But when you practice discipline, real discipline, not performative hustle, you rebuild that trust. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. Every time you get up, when it would have been easier to sleep in, you're casting a vote for the man you want to become. Every time you choose the hard right over the easy wrong, you're building a version of yourself that can be counted on, not just by others, but by you. Motivation doesn't do that. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. And engines don't need sparks every day. They just need fuel and ignition. They need repetition, precision, and consistency. And that's what discipline gives you. A system that doesn't break just because you had a rough night or a bad morning. This isn't about being robotic or joyless. It's about being in command. You run your mind. You run your choices. You run your day. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up 100 times, even if you only felt like it 12 times. Because those other 88 times, that's where the growth happened. That's where the grit got built. That's where you trained yourself to push when everything in you wanted to quit. And let's talk about the cost of not having discipline, because most people don't realize it until they've paid it. The cost is regret. The cost is a life lived beneath your potential. The cost is waking up 10 years from now, realizing you've been playing small, putting things off, living in loops, telling yourself the same story about why you can't right now. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your systems. And if your system is based on whether or not you're feeling it, then you've already lost. You can't afford that. Not if you want to become something rare. Not if you want to be the one people lean on, the one who sets the standard, the one who moves with quiet precision while everyone else is distracted and disoriented. That guy 2.0 is disciplined. Not because it's trendy, but because it's necessary. He understands that every day is a test, and how you do anything is how you do everything. He doesn't need motivation because he has a mission. And when you operate from mission, everything changes. You stop negotiating with your mind. You stop outsourcing your accountability. You stop being shocked by your own excuses. You start moving like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Your peace, your power, your purpose, all of it is tied to whether or not you can command yourself in the moments that matter. And let me be real with you. The moments that matter the most won't feel like they matter in the moment. They'll feel like small decisions. Do I hit snooze? Do I skip the gym today? Do I take the easy way out on this project? Do I stay quiet when I should speak up? But those small decisions become habits, and those habits become your life. So you better believe they matter. You better believe discipline in those moments is everything. So no, you don't need another motivational speech. You don't need a new quote. You don't need hype. You need to decide who you are and then prove it. Daily. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not dramatic. It's not exciting. But it's what builds killers, leaders, legends. Motivation will get you going. Discipline will keep you going long after everyone else gave up. And that's what makes the difference. That's what makes you that guy 2.0. Silence is uncomfortable for most people. That's why they fill every second with something. Music, scrolling, constant conversation, distractions, validation, noise. Because noise numbs. It drowns out the doubt, the fear, the boredom, the need for real confrontation with who you are and what you're doing with your life. But here's the truth. If you're constantly surrounded by noise, you'll never hear your own signal. You'll never hear your gut. You'll never hear your instincts. And worst of all, you'll never hear the voice that's quietly asking you, are you really living this day with purpose or just surviving it? If you want to become that guy 2.0, the one who moves with calm, sharp precision while the rest of the world is spinning out, then you have to do something most people never will. You have to shut up the world and listen to yourself. And then execute. Not because people are watching, not because it'll look good on Instagram, not because you'll get credit. You execute because it's who you are. Full stop. This is one of the hardest mental shifts to make in the modern world, detaching your performance from other people's perception. We've been wired now to crave instant feedback. You post and you check. You speak and you wait for a response. You act and you expect applause. And if you don't get it, you start questioning whether it was worth it. That's how deeply the external world has hijacked our inner compass. But the truth? The applause is never what builds you. The silence does. Because it's in the silence that you find out what you're really made of. Can you show up with fire when no one is clapping? Can you stick to your routine when no one is validating it? Can you put in the reps day after day when nobody says a word? Because if you can't, then you're not building discipline. You're just feeding your ego. There's something powerful about the man who can operate without praise. It means he's tapped into something deeper. It means he's committed to excellence, not applause. Mission, not attention. And that's what makes him dangerous, because his energy isn't reactive. He doesn't need hype to move. He doesn't need noise to focus. He has a code, and he follows it, regardless of who's watching. You want to be respected. Show up in silence. You want to lead? Do it without asking for followers. You want to master your craft? Put in 10,000 hours when no one cares, and keep going. Because those hours, those quiet reps, that daily grind in obscurity, that's what builds skill. That's what sharpens the blade. That's where your edge is forged. And let's be honest, the people making the most noise Usually they're doing the least. Because noise is easy, posting is easy, talking about it is easy, hype is easy. But executing when no one's watching, when no one cares, when it's just you and the grind, that's hard, that's rare, and that's where the real ones are separated from the talkers. You'll know you're leveling up when you stop needing to tell people what you're doing. You'll know you're evolving when your work speaks so loud that you don't have to. When people start asking, what's he doing differently? Where did this guy come from? And the answer, you didn't just appear. You were there all along. You were just in the dark, building, while they were talking. Let them talk. Let them post. Let them perform. You keep building. Keep sharpening. Keep executing. And do it without noise, without clapping, without an audience. Because once you start getting high off that applause, you'll chase it. You'll crave it. You'll change your actions to get more of it. And when the noise stops, and it always does, you'll be left with nothing but confusion and silence you never learned how to handle. But the one who trained in silence, he doesn't panic when it gets quiet. He doesn't break when no one notices. He doesn't need a stage. He doesn't need likes, followers, or cheers. Because his reward is in the becoming, not in the recognition. And that's the edge. That's the difference between a performer and a professional. Performers wait for the right conditions, the perfect mood, the right timing, the right audience. Professionals show up every day. No matter what, they move with a sense of internal gravity that can't be shaken by external winds. They don't need permission. They don't chase validation. They don't beg for credit. They know if the work is real, the results will speak eventually. And when they do, it'll be undeniable. But even then, they won't stop, because it was never about the credit. It was about the mission, the commitment, the quiet promise they made to themselves when no one else was around. So here's your challenge, and it's not a motivational quote. It's a war cry for the discipline. Mute the noise, execute anyway. When you feel unseen, execute. When no one says, good job, execute. When it feels thankless, execute. Because that guy 2.0 doesn't need applause to move forward. He is the storm. He doesn't wait for permission. He doesn't need to be seen. He just wins. Silently, relentlessly, completely. There's a reason you feel drained. It's not just work. It's not just stress. It's not just lack of sleep. You're leaking energy constantly because your boundaries are weak. You're saying yes when you want to say no. You're entertaining conversations that add zero value. You're spending time with people who take and never give. You're explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. And little by little, piece by piece, your power is bleeding out. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. It's not about being cold, it's about being clear. Clear on what matters. Clear on who gets access. Clear on what you'll tolerate. And once you start moving like your energy is currency, because it is, you'll stop spending it on things that offer no return. You'll stop negotiating your peace just to keep the peace. You'll stop handing out VIP access to people who haven't earned it. There's this myth that being a good person means being endlessly available. That's wrong. Being available to everyone means being accountable to no one, including yourself. You are not obligated to drain yourself to charge someone else. You are not required to sacrifice your mental space to make someone else feel comfortable. You are allowed to choose yourself without guilt, without explanation, and without apology. Some people are parasites, not always intentionally, but parasitic nonetheless. They feed off your time, your kindness, your energy, your presence, and they give you nothing in return but exhaustion and noise. You know who they are, the ones who only call when they need something, the ones who make everything about them, the ones who constantly cross the line and then act offended when you draw one. And you've been tolerating it. You've been telling yourself it's not a big deal. You've been shrinking so they can stay comfortable. But here's the truth. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. And if you don't filter your life, the wrong people will flood it. Setting savage boundaries means you stop playing nice at the cost of your sanity. It means you stop answering calls from people who drain you. It means you stop over-explaining decisions that are not up for debate. It means you stop making space for people who don't bring peace, clarity, or growth into your world. You stop making excuses for toxic behavior just because someone's family or longtime friend. Time served doesn't equal unconditional access. Loyalty does not mean self-sacrifice. There is a difference between being kind and being used. And if you don't make that distinction, someone else will exploit it for you. And listen, It's not always external. Sometimes the biggest energy leak is the story you keep telling yourself, the one that says you owe everyone an explanation, that says if I say no, they'll think I'm selfish, that says I don't want to disappoint them. But let me tell you what's worse than disappointing them: betraying yourself. Every time you abandon your own needs just to meet someone else's expectations, you lose a little more of your power. And eventually, you won't recognize the person you've become: burned out, bitter, constantly exhausted, constantly resentful. That's not strength, that's self-neglect. Real strength is saying no with your chest. Real power is choosing your peace over their comfort. It's walking away from chaos, not because you're weak, but because you know your worth, because you understand that the energy you carry is sacred, and not everyone is entitled to it. You worked for this peace, you fought for this clarity, you bled for this mindset. So why would you hand it over so easily? Protecting your energy doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you become surgical with access. It means you measure people by their patterns, not their potential. Anyone can say the right things, but how do they make you feel? Do you feel uplifted after you spend time with them? Or do you feel drained? Do they push you to grow? Or do they keep you small? Do they honor your boundaries, or do they treat them like suggestions? If someone is constantly disrespecting your time, your space, your values, they are not difficult. They are dismissive. And dismissiveness is a form of disrespect. You don't need to fight them, you just need to remove them. It's not your job to fix people who refuse to grow. It's not your job to keep showing up for people who consistently show you they don't value you. Your job is to protect your mind, to guard your heart, to preserve your peace. Because without those things, everything else crumbles. You can't lead, you can't build, you can't grow, not when your energy is under siege. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud: when you finally start enforcing boundaries, some people will leave. Good, let them. Anyone who gets offended by your self-respect was benefiting from your lack of it. Anyone who disappears when you raise your standards was never there for you. They were there for what you gave them: your silence, your time, your energy, your compliance. You don't need everyone to understand your boundaries. You don't need anyone's permission to set them. All you need is the courage to say, this is where I end and you begin. You don't get to come any further unless it's with respect, reciprocity, and alignment. That's not selfish. That's self-mastery. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your focus, your mental health, your ability to show up in this world with clarity and impact, it all hinges on how well you guard your internal space. Be kind, be compassionate, be generous, but don't be available to everything and everyone. You don't owe access to anyone who doesn't respect the cost. Boundaries are not just protection, they're elevation. Protect your energy, relentlessly, unapologetically, savagely. Let me leave you with this, loud and clear. You don't rise by chance, you rise by choice. You rise by discipline, by boundaries, by a relentless commitment to who you said you would become, especially when no one's watching, especially when it's hard, especially when it would be easier to fold. Being that guy 2.0 isn't about ego. It's not about titles. It's not about trying to impress anyone. It's about being the calmest man in the room when everything's burning. It's about being the most prepared in a world full of shortcuts. It's about being grounded when everyone else is reactive, focused when everyone else is distracted, driven when everyone else is waiting for motivation. That guy 2.0 doesn't need to talk about being different. He proves it in the way he walks, the way he works, and the way he carries himself. There's no announcement, no hype, just results. So here's the final truth. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you want. If you want to be elite, move elite. If you want a better future, act like it's already yours and protect it. With your habits, with your standards, with your energy, with your discipline. Every decision, every boundary, every moment of silence, every small choice when it would have been easier to quit, it all counts. It all stacks. It's all creating a version of you the world hasn't met yet. Let them keep talking. Let them stay comfortable. Let them watch. You're not here to be average. You're not here to be liked. You're here to build, to rise, to become undeniable. So be that guy. The one who executes without noise. The one who protects his energy like his future depends on it, because it does. The one who doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, and doesn't need to be told. That guy 2.0. Now go prove it.